Hello, welcome back, and good morning or good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Today I'm going to be offering a standing flow. So something that you could do hopefully anywhere, in whatever clothes you might be in. I know sometimes we're not always in a space where we want to be down on the floor, whether we're in an office setting or somewhere else. So hopefully that works for you and offers you some tools of things you could do anywhere at any time. So if you'd like to join me, we'll begin standing, and we're going to stay standing. So feel free to maybe move or adjust your feet a little bit. We often come to one stance without thinking about it, and that's okay. That's probably your most comfortable stance. But maybe try something different. You might try bringing your feet all the way together, maybe having the big toes touch or the heels touch. But if that doesn't feel so great, you're welcome to stand hip width apart or closer or further apart. So maybe just try a few different stances, a few different spaces between those feet. Find what works for you today. And then after you find that space, let's bring some movement into those shoulders. So you might start to circle out your shoulders. You can move one shoulder at a time or both shoulders at the same time. If you're moving both at the same time, you might start to feel or notice some differences in those shoulders. One might feel a little tighter than the other. It might feel the same too. But just starting to observe the body as we start to bring some movement into it. And if you're circling out those shoulders, you might try going the other direction a few times. Eventually, just drawing those shoulders back and down. So just in your own time, bringing those shoulders back to stillness. You might try turning those palms facing forward as you actively reach those fingertips down towards the ground. Even here, you might start to feel a little stretch to the side of your neck as we create a little more space between the ears and those shoulders. And you're welcome to close your eyes, or maybe just find a spot down on the ground to gently gaze at as we take a few moments here and find our breath. So maybe first just noticing your natural breath here without changing it, just observing how and when you breathe. Always an option to bring your hands to the chest and the belly. Sometimes that helps us keep our focus on that breath a little bit more. But again, that's just an option. Your hands can be wherever they're useful or most comfortable here. And then as we continue to stay with that breath, let's try to find or observe the length of our breaths. So you can do that by just counting. In your mind, counting how many seconds it takes you to take a full breath in, and then how long it takes to take a full breath out. Noticing if those are different lengths. And maybe trying to bring them to the same length. For example, if you breathe into the count of 4, maybe try breathing out to the count of 4. And just see what that feels like as we even out those breaths. Our breath is deeply connected to our nervous system. So as we balance our inhales and our exhales, it helps to balance the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems, the calming and the energizing nervous systems. Trying to stay with that breath for a few more moments here, and maybe adding a pause in between the breath in and the breath out. So if you were breathing into the count of 4, you might try pausing for the count of 4, and then breathing out to the count of 4, and pausing to the count of 4. Whichever number feels most comfortable for you to breathe this morning or today. Remembering if it starts to, if counting that breath or the length of the breath starts to not feel so comfortable, maybe causing some anxiety or whatever it might be, you're always more than welcome to stop counting that breath or to change the lengths of that breath for any reason. Let's just try 3 more breaths here. Whenever you feel ready, feel free to let go of that count. Just allowing the body to breathe naturally here. But then maybe on the next breath in, we lift those arms up towards the ceiling. The hands might connect overhead, and then exhaling them down to your heart center. Once again, we'll inhale, lifting the arms up. Exhaling them down to our heart. Your thumbs might even connect with the front of that heart or the middle of the chest. And inhaling, let's lift one more time all the way up. And then as we exhale and lower our hands to our heart, let's find just a little bend in those knees as we start to sit those hips back into a gentle chair. And then we'll inhale, grounding down into the heels, lifting the arms. Exhaling, bending the knees, hips reach back. Inhaling as we rise, just moving with our breath at your own pace. Starting to bring a little energy, a little heat into those legs. But also into that core, especially as we sit back. Try to draw that core inwards so we're not dumping into our lower back. Let's try 2 more like that. Exhaling, hips reach back. Inhale, grounding down into the heels as we rise. And one more time, weights back in the heels. Strong through our core. Inhaling all the way up. And then on our exhale, we're just going to fold over our legs. So a little bend in those knees as we hinge at the hips. You might lower the chin down towards the chest. And feel free to just move that head side to side or forward and back. And then bringing our heads back to center, you might find a nice deep bend in those knees. Maybe feel the ground underneath those big toes as you slowly rise, making your way back up to standing. And then exhale, maybe try to sign it out through the mouth. So we lower those hands all the way down. All right, so making sure you have some space behind you. Let's bring those hands to our heart center, connecting the palms, connecting those fingertips. You might even put a little more pressure into those fingertips and palms to really feel that connection. And then on the next breath in, maybe stepping your right foot to the back, and we're just going to open our arms. Keeping those elbows bent, and as the arms drop back, maybe try to drop them down as well. So lifting up through the heart as the elbows drop down, and then on our exhale, we're going to step forward, bringing the feet towards one another, the hands back together, and then inhaling the opposite foot. Left foot steps back, opening through the shoulders, through the heart, exhaling as we step forward. And we're just going to alternate with our breath, or alternate side to side as we move with our breath. So again, feel free to go at your own pace. You know, it challenges the balance here. So it might be helpful to find a spot in front of you that doesn't move and gently gaze at that as the body moves. Inhaling, elbows draw back and down. Exhaling as we step forward. Inhaling, opposite side, lifting the heart, maybe even lifting the gaze. Exhaling forward. One more time on each side. Awesome. And then the next time that right foot steps back, let's go ahead and pause here. So pausing in this high lunge, and then feel free to bring those hands back to your heart center. Maybe finding soft bend through that back knee here. So we're not actively lifting it up, and we're not dropping it all the way down, just a little halfway point. Softening through that back knee. See if we can ground down into that front heel a little bit more here to help stabilize the rest of the leg there. And then as we breathe in, see if we can lift the crown of the head a little bit taller. And then on the breath out, continuing to press into those palms as we start to turn our shoulders to the left, towards that front knee. Finding this tall standing twist. Maybe checking in, noticing when you're breathing. And then as you breathe in, slowly coming back to center. And then go ahead and drop that back heel down to the floor as we open those arms out to the side to a warrior two. Maybe checking in with that front knee briefly, making sure it's right above that ankle or behind it. And then that front palm turns up. Let's inhale, lifting that left arm up towards the ceiling. And this right hand, you can reach it down towards the ground, or you can wrap it around that lower back. Maybe helping that right shoulder drop a little bit more. Just for 2 more breaths as we pause. And then slowly unwrapping that arm. Let's come back to that warrior two. Facing forward, let's lift that back heel, coming back to that high lunge. And then as we exhale, we'll step forward. Bring those feet together. Feel free to walk out those legs a little bit, or maybe move those arms. Just coming back to your mountain for a few breaths. Feel free to reach those hands down towards the floor, or maybe you'd rather bring your hands to your heart. Let's check in, seeing if we can make those breaths in around the same length as those breaths out. Or sometimes if we need a little extra help in calming the body and calming the mind, you might try making those breaths out a little bit longer than the breaths in. Okay, when you feel ready, we're going to step our left foot to the back. Feel free to bring those hands back to your heart center. So we come back to this high lunge. It's again a little soft bend through that back knee. You might even start to feel a stretch, a little opening through that left hip flexor here as we bring those shoulders right above the hips. Lifting tall through the crown of the head, especially as we take another breath in. Really try to lengthen and draw in and upwards from the core all the way up. And then exhaling as we slowly turn to the right. Really pressing into those fingertips, into those palms as we twist nice and tall. Bringing out the core. And then slowly making your way back to center. Go ahead and drop that back heel down to the floor as you open your arms out to the sides to that warrior two. Maybe bringing that front wrist right above the knee with the knees right above the ankle. Then turning that front palm up. Inhaling reverse warrior as that right hand lifts. Feel free to keep the left hand where it's at, or you might wrap it around that lower back. Dropping that left shoulder down as we lift through the right. Maybe feeling a stretch through that right side body here. 1 more breath. And then slowly unwinding, coming back to the warrior two. Lifting that back heel as we face forward to that high lunge. And then exhaling, stepping forward. Bringing those feet next to each other once again. Feel free to walk out those legs. Move through those arms. Whatever feels best here. All right, once again, let's bring those hands back to our heart center. On the next breath in, we're going to step this right foot to the back. Let's open those arms just like we started with, our cactus arms. But then on the breath out, we're going to step forward and add a little balance, lifting that right knee. Just bringing it up towards the midline of the body. And then here, you might cross the ankles. So if I face you there, you can cross the ankles and maybe rest the toes on the floor. And then you start to sit your hips back, like into a balancing chair. Or another option would be from that knee lifted, crossing the ankle above the knee, and then sitting the hips back. Go ahead and inhale, standing back up. Exhale as you lower your foot down. Then we're gonna try the other side. Inhaling, left leg steps back, opening through the heart. Exhaling as we step forward, let's lift that knee forward, up in front, and then feel free to cross ankle over knee or ankle over ankle. Slowly send those hips back and down, a little balancing chair. Inhaling back up, and exhaling, lowering your foot. Let's try 2 times each side. Inhaling, stepping back, open, nice and tall. Exhaling forward, finding that balance. Remembering to use a spot in front of you. Gently gaze at that one spot to help with that balance. And then just moving with your breath. Inhaling as you open. Exhaling as we come forward, engaging the core. Sitting back into the heel, into those hips. Inhaling back up. Exhaling, lowering your foot. One more time on each side. Feel free to go at your own pace. If you're moving next to a wall, you're always welcome to hold on to that wall for balance. And last time here. Whenever you finish both sides, feel free to bring both feet back to the floor. Maybe bringing those arms along your sides. You might even take a nice full breath in through the nose. Long breath out through the mouth. And then one more time, bringing those hands back to your heart. Right foot steps to the back. But this time we're gonna drop the right heel. Foot turns out to the side. Let's go ahead and straighten that front leg. Standing nice and tall here. You can always shorten that stance. However much you'd like. Let's inhale, standing as tall as we can, and then exhaling, hinging at the hips, folding forward. We're just gonna fold over that front leg, lowering the hands down whenever you'd like. They can come to your hips, to your thigh, to your shin, or the floor. Gently releasing through the shoulders, through the neck. You might even lower that chin a little closer to the collarbone. And if you find it's hard to keep this front leg straight, maybe try stepping that back foot in closer or out to the side, or maybe just lift a little bit higher. There's nothing that says you need to be all the way down to the floor. So if that compromises the stretch or the alignment, we want to just maybe come back up a little bit taller. A few more breaths here as we pause. Gently try to bring that back hip forward. That right hip, try to bring it towards that front foot. One more full breath. And then maybe bending that front knee so you can ground down into that foot as we slowly walk those hands up the leg all the way back up to standing. You might lift those arms all the way up. And then exhaling as they lower, stepping those feet together once again. Staying here for as long as you'd like to kind of notice how both sides feel. But then when you feel ready, let's step that left foot to the back. Dropping that left heel to the floor as the foot turns out to the side. Maybe straightening that front leg. But again, you can always step that back foot in closer. Let's take a full breath in. Try to draw in and upwards through the navel, lifting through the crown of the head, and then stay nice and long through that spine as we just hinge at the hips. So we're not rounding through the back. Folding over that leg nice and slow. Till you find that point where your body is just going to naturally pause for you. Trying to keep this front leg mostly straight. You can always have a soft bend in it. And then feel free to lower those hands. And then you maybe soften through the shoulders. Maybe you lower your chin towards your chest. Or maybe you adjust with your feet still. Walking or stepping that back foot in closer or out to the side. Maybe you keep your hands up on your hips. It's gonna look different for each one of us. So finding what works for you. Maybe pausing. 3 more breaths here. Always remembering you can come back up to standing at any point for any reason. Okay, as you feel ready, bending that front knee, maybe you walk your hands all the way up, helping yourself come back up to standing. Maybe we lift those arms up as well. And then exhaling as you step forward, bringing those hands back to your heart center or down along those sides. Moving those legs however is needed for you there. All right, and then next breath in, let's go ahead and lift those arms back up. But this time on the breath out, we're just gonna let's turn to our left side. Just finding a twist. And then inhaling as we untwist, lifting the arms back up. And exhaling, maybe we twist to the right. And then inhaling back up. Once more, we're gonna come to the left, but we're gonna pause here in this twist. The right arm, maybe bring it to the top of that left leg. And then inhaling that left arm up towards the ceiling. You might start to feel stretch through the side body, maybe even into that hip. And then when you feel ready, go ahead and bring those arms all the way back to center, inhaling them up. Exhaling as we turn to the right. Finding that pause here, maybe left hand lowers to the legs, right hand lifts. As tall, as high as it's able to. Continuing to turn that gaze back and up towards that hand. And go ahead and slowly lower, untwisting as both arms come back up. And exhaling all the way down along those sides. All right, one more time. We're gonna inhale those arms up. This time on the exhale, let's swan dive down, bending those knees, hands reach back, heart reaches forward as we fold over those legs, lowering the chin towards the chest. Hands might hover over the floor, or maybe they're on the floor. Either way is fine. Little bend in those knees. You might even heel toe or step those feet out a little bit wider than those hips. And then maybe bring your hands to your elbows or forearms and just gently swaying side to side. Keeping that little bend in those knees or a deep bend. Releasing through that lower back. Releasing through the neck and the shoulders. Slowly making your way back to the middle. Maybe those arms are let go. Deep bend in those knees. And just one vertebrae at a time, slowly rolling back up to standing. Shoulders and head coming very last. When you get to the top, feel free to walk those feet back in. And then you're welcome to pause here once again, just like we began. Maybe those hands are reaching down, or maybe they're together at your heart. You might close those eyes or just find a spot on the ground to gaze at. Just taking a few more moments here to observe. Taking a brief mental scan in the body from the top of your head down to those toes. Noticing which areas draw your attention. Maybe finding that breath. Feel free to come back to that counting breath if you would like. Making those breaths out a little bit longer than the breaths in. Remembering that that breath is directly tied to your nervous system. So using it as needed. Lengthening the exhales when we need to calm, restore. Maybe deepening the inhales when we need to wake up and energize. Feel free to stay here as long as you'd like. Again, always an option to come down to a seat or on your back, giving yourself a few more moments to just observe and focus. Otherwise, I will leave you here. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and week ahead, and I will see you next time. Namaste.